Deck the halls with whatever the fuck you deck halls with. Da, 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 da. Is it bells and holly? Is that
I
right?
think it's boughs of holly, I think.
What's a fucking bow?
When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. I'm assuming it's some kind of tree type of appendage, Clive.
It's
Clive,
already
do you have your eggnog?
oh fuck your eggnog.
Do
Shut
you
up.
have your festive do you have your festive clothes on, Clive?
I do. It's my festive monkey. Where do you stand on? Do you drink that filth known as eggnog, Gav?
No, no, I've only drank it once when I was in America. When I spent Christmas with Stevie Mandel. Yeah,
Ah, and what did you make of the eggnog? Christmas with Susie Mandel. That's quite impressive. Uh,
yeah,
it sounds like the name of a memoir or something. Christmas with Susie Mandel.
I was thinking about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because
God, yeah.
I was asking Gav um, offline, not offline, because then it would have been mail, off whatever the fuck,
Yep.
not on this,
Hmm.
about her obscure Sword and the Sorcerer credit because she's in it, uncredited, and I was wondering what she did in it, and Gav was telling me what she was, she's in it, or she was filmed, and she might
I
have been
remember being in it,
filmed,
yeah.
but yeah.
But do you think she was cut out? I've never been able to spot her in it. So
Yeah, well, I haven't rewatched it with her in mind, so I'm not sure. But obviously, you've rewatched and you were on the lookout for her and you couldn't see her.
I can't find any. The real mystery is Cheech and Chong's Things Are Tough All Over,
Ah, yes.
which which I've gone through that film with a fine tooth comb. I've never been able to find her in it, and yet she always keeps getting these royalty checks for Cheech and Chong's Things Are Tough All Over.
Wow,
And
you have suffered for your art, going through Cheech and Chong with it. Because other than Up in Smoke, I think pretty much all their films are rubbish. I think
There's
is that
a
right?
significant law of diminishing returns with Cheech and Chong.
they're like they're like 50-cent checks as well, so I don't think you can.
Wow. Is Things That Tough All Over? Is that the one where they go to a film festival and they they get so stoned that they imagine they're Burt Reynolds or something like that. Is that the one?
I don't know if it's set in Las Vegas or something. I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't really. I
I
don't
get
remember
them
it.
all mixed up. Yeah. Only I remember Up in Smoke's good, and then they're in Yellowbeard as well, right? If I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
As a kid, I liked the Corsican Brothers, but I suspect it would not hold up to another watch. But for some reason, I enjoyed the Corsican Brothers when I was a kid.
Oh, I forgot that. I get that confused with Yellowbeard now. I thought they played the Corsican brothers in Yellowbeard, but no, that's a different
I
film
don't think so.
entirely.
No,
Oh,
no. But
yeah,
I think you're right. I think
Yellowbeard.
they are in Yellowbeard.
Yellowbeard's not very. Although it does. There's one genuinely funny line reading where Graham Chapman says, "I haven't got any fruit in my loins," which is quite funny. But anyway, we're not here to
Yes.
talk about Susie Mandel, Cheech and Chong, or any of that because
Mm,
bless my soul, lick my flatulent ring piece. It's the YakeCineSoba Christmas special. Ho ho
mm.
ho. Yes, Gav isn't wearing that hat for a bet. It's because it's Christmas. And Nick kind of has something festive on. I don't know how festive. Super Mario's not set at Christmas, is it?
Um, it's not set at Christmas.
Very good. Very good. Nicely avoided there. But what is set at Christmas is Don't Open Till Christmas,
Mm.
which we'll be talking about, and the companion piece documentary the making of a horror film. So, yes, so as our resident Dick Randall expert and enthusiast, Gav has written about Don't Open Till Christmas in the book Dead or Alive. What's the full title? Do we know?
Uh,
Dead or Alive?
British horror films, 1980 to 1989, I think.
There we go. Edited by Darrell Buxton, and yeah, Gav has a few entries. Urge to Kill, which we talked about before, speaking of Dick Randall, Don't Open at Christmas, and do you remember what else? There's at least one other thing you wrote about in that book, I think.
I think it might be making of a horror film as well. I might have written
Yes,
that.
there is. Yeah, yeah. Because actually reading that was what made me want to watch that and rewatch Don't for this, actually, because it's good. It's good stuff. So when I know, Nick, you've never seen either of these before.
No.
How about you, Gav? When were you first inducted to the joys of Don't? Actually, let's open it up a little bit, because I think we should talk about because we've talked a few different things on here. How exactly did your obsession with Dick Randall begin in the first place, Gav? It does seem to be quite fun.
Probably with this film, really. I mean, you end up seeing that name, Dick Randall presents on so many things, and who was this guy and that. And apart from like that documentary that appeared on the Mondo Macabro DVD, surprisingly neglected figure, really. Not much has been written about him. You think someone would write a book about the guy? So many
Yeah.
films.
There isn't one, is there? I don't think there is, or even a chapter of a book or something, as far as I know.
No, sort of enigmatic figure, shall we say?
Yeah, I always think of him a little bit, kind of slightly in the same vein as Harry Allen Towers.
Yeah.
Slightly less glamorous and more budget, right? But that kind of globe-trotting, one step ahead of the taxman sort of.
Something about his kind of affable roundness also reminds me a bit of who was H.G. Lewis's money man?
Oh, Dave Friedman.
Dave Friedman, yeah. There's something a little bit him as well about, and a bit Benny Hill as well. He jumped. It's funny. My wife, because I didn't know who he was until I watched the documentary afterwards. So, but we were watching some of the film together, and there's a dance scene quite near the very beginning, and my wife was like, "Who's that guy?" Like this,
Right.
And she's like, "Is that Benny Hill?" And I was like, "I don't think Benny Hill's in this, sweetie." But now I know who it was.
Well, so he also he seems like he's straight out of Central Casting. Get me a cigar chomping Hollywood producer, right? And he does a good little kind of self-parody cameo in Slaughter High, right? Where he's on the phone, he's Caroline Munro's agent. And I think, yeah, he seems to be kind of playing a variation on himself, right? Trying to convince Caroline Munro to take her clothes off in a low-budget film.
But you think a lot of his old films, though, usually, playing, shady, sort of comically sleazy guys. Really good in Four Times That Night by Mario Bava. He had a real significant role in that one.
Yeah, I have to watch that again, because the first time I saw Four Times That Night, oddly enough, was I think in 1998, I think. The BFI South Bank had a Mario Bava season, and I just moved to London, and everything was sold out. All the horror films, the things people actually wanted to go and see. So I ended up buying a ticket to go and see Four Times That Night, and it was one of those weird screenings where they didn't have a subtitle. They didn't have subtitles. They never dubbed. So you had a earpiece with like a woman translating as the film went along.
Awesome.
Which of course totally destroyed any comic timing or anything. But I remember actually quite enjoying Four Times That Night. But being sat next to some woman who was clearly like, didn't know who Mario Bava was and was just, a beret-wearing South Bank enthusiast who wasn't at all ready for a silly slapstick 60s sex comedy. So just spent the whole film like, huffing about, because she was obviously hoping it was Godard or something like that, right? Yeah. So yeah, no, I have to watch that again because I don't think I would have known who Dick Randall was. Maybe, but he's an interesting, like you said, Gav. He's oddly underrepresented, right?
Well, I think just because like once this kind of made me aware of who he was, and then going through his film credits, the number of things that I loved that he produced was kind of like mind blowing to me, right? Because he's the Pod People, he's For Your Height Only, he's Pieces, or Mil whatever Gritos Tiene la Noche, as
Yes.
those in the know would know it by. Yeah, I mean they're some of my favorite films are clearly Dick Randall joints, and I had no idea.
Bruce Lee films as well, like
Clones of Bruce Lee.
Yeah, Challenge of the Tiger with the awesome topless tennis match with Richard Harris' I almost said Richard Harris, but yeah.
Have you ever heard of Space Warriors 2000?
Space what? Oh yes, Space Warriors
Warriors
2000. Yes.
It's Ultraman film.
Yeah, so this is one of, I mean, we'll probably get to this on one of our shows at some point, actually. So this is one of those weird Thai rip-offs of, in that case, a couple of at least 2 Ultraman films, right?
But he'd obviously put that one together at around the same time as Don't Open Till Christmas, because there's a couple of like UK shot sequences at the beginning where they're using like some of the same locations as Don't Open Till Christmas, and an actress in it as well, Wendy Danvers, who plays the housekeeper in Don't Open Till Christmas, is also in Space Warriors 2000. Yeah,
that's interesting. That's interesting. Because the other figure as well, I mean, as obscure to some people as Dick Randall is and shouldn't be, even more under the radar is Steve Manasian, right? If that's how you're pronouncing it.
Is he the fellow who was involved with some of the early, well, like Last House on the Left and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because you won't find his name, right? I guess, yeah, he was a financier on Friday the 13th as well, right? Which kind of makes, he was clearly part of that, because he does have a producer credit on Sean S. Cunningham's Together. But officially, you won't find his name on. You only find it on this Space Warriors 2000 and a few other. Don't Scream! It's Only a Movie, right? The awful Dick Randall horror movie compilation, which you can find on YouTube now, presently.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that before, like many years ago on VHS.
It's got some lengthy clips from Don't Open Till Christmas in it.
Okay.
And a lot of, so Vincent Price is the host of that one, but a lot of Vincent, like, non sequiturs, right? So you'll have like a lengthy clip from Slaughter High or something, and then Vincent Price will. There's a lot to do with reincarnation, or what the fuck are you talking about? And he talks to. They've edited that, so occasionally he'll talk to. I think Boris Karloff from some of the scenes he did for the framing scenes for Black Sabbath. And Christopher Lee narrating that In Search for Dracula documentary, and they try and make it seem as if Vincent Price is interacting with him. It's not good. But there's a lot of Dick Randall product in that film, right? And I think that must have been done around the same time as this as well, maybe.
I imagine so, yeah.
Yeah. Credit.
Well, that was a Ray Self job on it. Ray Self went out to Hollywood to shoot that Vincent Price stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so Ray Self is editor on this as well, right?
Yeah, sort of one of the directors, I think.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
This is an interesting conversation. But I guess I have just a question about the timing of it. Like, so when does the whole video nasties thing really kick off? Because this is a film made in England that is, pretty full on in some ways. And, it definitely edges into areas where you'd think, well, there's kind of conflation of sex and violence and just a lot of gore. However well it's mounted or not mounted. but it's there. And so I wondered, like, did this come out before that? Was this in any way part of the whole?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I can figure out, so this starts shooting in about 82, right?
Okay,
Maybe about
so
80.
before, so definitely before then.
Well, because the thing with the Video Nasty thing, it was brewing along before it officially became a thing and before the DPP started. So I'm guessing even in 82, I'm not sure when the phrase Video Nasty would have been coined, but I'm guessing there was Mary Whitus was probably already complaining about, you know.
Oh yeah.
Right. Well, when did the Damned write that song, Video Nasty, that they played in that Young Ones episode?
Well, Young Ones debuted 82. Is that season 2?
That's season 2, though, I think.
Yeah, so
Season
83 something.
Okay, so yeah. All right.
Yeah. 84, of course, is the official. That's when the act comes in and everything. So yeah, Don't Open Till Christmas is it's good that you bring that up, because it is weird that it, as far as I know, almost totally avoided. I don't think it was on anyone's list, right? And I don't even know how much of a release it got, actually.
Well, I think by the time it came out on video, like video certificates were enforced, and it only ever came out very heavily cut. So.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so the original release in the UK would have been. I mean, because the thing is, it's difficult to cut it really, because it just has that sleazy Randall touch, right? Where it's not as if
Yes.
there's anything specific. I suppose there's a few things. There's like a bottle in the face, or
Yeah.
but even like the infamous urinal scene, like you don't really see anything other than a blood squib, right? It's
Well, that was definitely cut from the video, yeah. So much.
so what happens in the video version? Just Santa goes to the toilet and collapses.
The blood split was all gone. I think the woman being hung up naked in the London dungeon.
Paula Meadows, right? Who later went on to that's Gav's follow-up to Christmas with Susan Mandel is Christmas with Paula Meadows. I don't know if she's still knocking about, but yeah, she went to the US and did hardcore, right? For a while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she appears in the documentary as well, kind of cheerfully.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Talking about how horrible,
how enjoyable the whole experience of being hung upside down and mauled by a bunch of stage hands was. Yeah.
Didn't have a great time shooting that scene. She told me she really became like very dizzy and sort of disorientated once they hung her upside down by her feet. Apparently, that was a Derek Ford sequence. Derek Ford seems to be the director on that one. He held the head up in between takes and they changed it up.
Good
So
on.
how many directors did the film ultimately have?
4, 5? I don't know.
Well, what I heard, Ray Self claimed that it began by Edmund Purdom and made a hash of it. Then it was inherited by Derek Ford, who was either fired or walked away from the film, and then Ray sort of finished it off, the directing of it. But more recently, it seems like Alan Birkinshaw was
Birkinshaw,
yeah, also directed parts of it. And sort of
he's been interviewed on the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray release, and I mean, yeah, he seems fairly legit, I would say. He seems to have taken it over and kind of put it together in this final version that we see, and directed some stuff as well, right? But
all the other stuff I think he was directed by him.
Yeah, he seems to have a bit of a career like salvaging other people's films. Actually, he's done it more than once, right? And but I suppose most remembered now for Killer's Moon more than anything else. But of course he did direct Invaders of the Lost Gold, is that what it's called? Another Dick Randall production with Harold Oddjob Sakata, and that's another strange film, which is.
So I mean, I can never think of Alan Birkinshaw without thinking of a rather wicked nickname someone came up with him for a few years ago. Alan Clumsy Hands, and I think that was Alan Jones gave him that nickname. Jones. He was writing an article about Killer's Moon and sort of making out that Birkinshaw was like a British Ed Wood.
Hmm.
The punchline to it was if Tim Burton ever made a film with Alan Birkinshaw's life, it'd have to be called Alan Clumsy Hand. So, play on Edward Scissorhands.
Yes. Yes.
But I feel like I mean, should we just talk a little bit about because I feel like we shouldn't unpack all of the behind the scenes stuff before we maybe talk a little
Yes,
bit about.
I think okay. Then let's nominate Nick to do the plot then.
Yeah, so I'd love to have been in on the the process by which they came to this idea, right? Because it's like somebody was like, what's really popular is all of these kind of giallo inspired slasher films where you've got a bunch of like a bevy of beautiful ladies running around like with their kind of boobs falling out, being slashed by some psychopathic madman. Well, hear me out. What if instead of buxom beautiful young ladies, we gathered together the most decrepit, scabrous, leprous looking bunch of old derelicts and dressed them up in kind of crepe felt Santa suits and had them murdered instead?
According to the documentary as well, literally at some point, like some
It
folks they pulled
like
off
some of those guys were.
I was having a beer over there.
Yeah, they seem like some of them seem like proper street people who got convinced. Oh yeah, just we'll buy you a few pints. So yes, and somebody else being like, yes, this sounds brilliant. And then at some point, Edmund Purdom hearing of this, I'm guessing maybe on the set of Pieces, and he's like, not only do I have to star in this, but I should like to direct.
I must direct it too. This is my calling.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few cute girls in there every now and again, but a lot of this movie is sketchy old fucking guys.
I'm quite fond of Kelly Baker, who's also in Slaughter High, right? She plays the stripper who works in the
right, who never actually strips.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. She wears a t-shirt tucked into her belt.
I'm sure Dick Randall tried his best, but yeah.
No, she's very cute. She's definitely one of the more charismatic leads. And then I guess anyway, yeah. So so basically that's what the story is, right? So we've got
someone killing Santas at Christmas time, is it right? And
pretty much. And we've got a young lady whose dad is murdered. And she's kind of
go on.
She's got, but the thing is, I would say she's central, but she's not, because like no one is really central to this story. There's like 9 different characters, all who've got almost equal screen time.
Yeah, which is weird. Belinda Main of Alien 2 fame, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, an odd. She's one of those. Yeah, she's in Alien 2, and what else? What's the other big one she's in? She's a star of
White Fire.
Yes. And there's something else as well. She's some other Italian thing I'm blanking on. But yeah, an odd, just like famous for less than 5 minutes, right? And almost, she doesn't seem to have like worked up. It's just like she's suddenly the star of a whole bunch of things, and then nothing, right? As far as I can tell, pretty much. She's an odd filmography. Like I don't know where she came from.
Well, yeah.
Say again.
Is she the daughter of Ferdy Main as well, I believe, is the actor?
Yeah, so I suppose that's the that's where it comes. But again, I don't know. It's an odd. I don't know. She's just one of those people that you stumble across as the star, and you wonder who is this person, and then.
One of the things I always remember about the UK video release is that it's the plot synopsis was all like really hyping the sort of murder mystery angle, saying the yard is on the trail, but every clue points in a different direction. The killer is right under their nose, and yet one of the stills on the back of the video boxes, Alan Lake murdering Belinda Main's character, thus revealing the killer is in the film, and that the lead female character gets killed at the end.
Yes, and we know that New Scotland Yard is on the case because we see the New Scotland Yard sign many times.
Yes. and I'm assuming that was guerrilla filmmaking. I'm willing to bet that there was no permission asked or given to use that.
Yes. So yeah, so basically, it's actually quite a good concept. I quite like the idea when someone points out, someone killing Santa Clauses. Do you know how many fucking Santa Clauses there are in London at Christmas time? It's like, oh, yeah. It's actually quite a good idea, actually, for a film. But unfortunately, this is what well, fortunately, I do kind of like this film quite a bit, but it is a fucking mess, right?
Yes, but it's a lot of fun.
It's also, I mean, just like you said, how did the script meeting? Like, so, okay, yeah, we'll do the Hitchcock innocent gets involved because her father, is one of the victims, and okay, but how exactly will her father? How about in the middle of a Christmas party, a fucking spear goes through his head,
comes out his mouth while he blows a little Christmas party.
And the only clue is that there's someone in the audience. It's a shrunken head costume who instead of just running away, puts a stick inside the shrunken head costume, so it's still there. What kind of logic is this? Yeah, madness all the way. This film, like, I could watch this film over and over again. I think just every single time there's a new bit of fucked up logic, and it's a puzzle box of a film, isn't it? It's so strange. Everything about it is not one thing. It's like it comes from another universe, an alternative reality where they make films like this.
Yes. And our lead, whatever she is, but Kate, the daughter,
yes,
her boyfriend, Cliff, is a astonishing piece of shit. Like, truly the worst boyfriend who's ever lived.
That bit had me in stitches. I know, according to the making of it, makes sense. Apparently, one of the commentaries, I think, it makes sense in the original version because I think he's trying to get her mind off the dead father, so they go busking, right? And that kind of makes a bit more sense, sort of. But the way the film plays out, you're halfway through the film and then you realize, oh, he's a busker with a flute. Is that like his job? Like, what the fuck? And now she's helping him.
Well, one of the first things he does to try to take her mind off it is take her to his friend who's a pornographer and tries to convince her to do porn.
Yes.
It's like, my dad's just been murdered, and like his next step is like, well, this is a great opportunity for us to get into the porn industry. Yeah. So
no, he's awesome. Like, straight away, like 5 minutes after her father's dead, he's like, you gotta get over this. You gotta get on with your life.
Yeah. You can put a wig on, no one will notice you.
Yes, Jerry Sundquist. No, his character is awesome, and of course in that scene, Pat Astley as well, who's really good fun in this film. Like, she's really good at this particular. She's very, very funny. I'm a professional and all that.
So after she storms out, right after our poor bereaved girlfriend storms out, he immediately then attempts to hook up with the star of the porn scene. That scene when they're on the street together, and then the police see them, and his immediate concern is they're gonna think I'm gay.
That line cracked me up as well. Yeah, they're gonna think we're a couple of gay men, I think he says.
Why?
And then does the most suspicious thing possible and runs away, right? And like I said, this film comes from another dimension. Nothing makes sense. It's but that's what's brilliant about it, because you don't know what's coming next, because it doesn't have regular film logic.
There's no rhyme, no reason. Yeah, so you're constantly wrong-footed by assuming that things will start to make sense at some point.
Because I mean, one thing I've realized is the killer won't kill a woman who's dressed as Santa Claus. He only kills men who dress as Santa Claus. But then later on in the film, he encounters the secretary at the London Dungeon hangs up, even though she isn't even dressed as Santa Claus, he hangs her upside down naked, cloth on her throat.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
What does
yeah,
it?
that's
What's,
fantastic. I wonder how many films are actually have been shot at the London Dungeon as well. There can't be that many.
well, they sort of joke in the making of
Yeah.
that no one's been allowed to make a film there since. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't think of any film that's actually, narrative film that's been had a scene there, shot there.
Well, the ironic thing about it as well is, to be honest, if someone told me, "Oh, that's not actually the London Dungeon," I would believe them. I mean, it doesn't scream London Dungeon, right? Like, it could just be someone's basement. So it's not as if they got their money's worth in terms of showing off the location, right? Because I don't know. Yeah, it's such a weird. And then there's a lot of but there's a lot of locations in this film that now, I mean, can you imagine trying to film Portobello Road, like Market now? The permits would be insane, I would imagine. But no, and you get to see. And so Edmund Purdom, let's talk about Edmund Purdom, because there's the other thing that's got lost in the edit, it seems, is at a certain point, I think they were trying to make it that Edmund Purdom might get it on with Belinda Main, right?
Yeah.
Which is, again, very inappropriate and strange. And there's a few weird, scenes of him just kind of leering at her while she's playing, not playing the flute, just holding the cap in Portobello and all that. But they kind of seem to have given up on that concept halfway through the filming, right?
But he walks away, because again, get to the behind the scenes stuff. Surely, at a certain point when he's fired from the film, he then left, and there was a scramble and a rewrite and trying to figure out what to do. But then he comes back, and then shoots more later on in the production, right? So,
yeah, I mean, I was watching. The other thing that struck me, a slight tangent, but watching this, watching him in certain scenes, I was like, oh, Edmund Purdom would be an awesome Dracula, I thought. And then so I was, hang on, has Edmund Purdom ever played Dracula? So I was like, I'm not sure. He must. They must. So I looking through his filmography, and as far as I can tell, he only ever played Dracula once, right? In that film, maybe about the same time as this, Freccia contro Dracula, right? Which is the French or Italian, I can't remember, comedy film, which is rubbish. But at least he does play Dracula in it. And it just seems like such a missed opportunity. He would have been a brilliant Dracula. Because he's got it all going on, right? He looks a little bit vampiric anyway in this film, I think. Something about him.
And he's got that great plummy accent as well.
Yeah. I love the fact in the making of as well, he talks about how qualified he is to direct a horror film because one of his wives tried to kill him by throwing an air dryer in the bath.
True story, that, yeah.
Yeah. Is that true story, is it?
Yeah, true story. She tried to kill him several times, I believe.
Wow.
And the man's only lasted a year, so an electrifying relationship.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the fact that he tells it in such a jolly fashion as well. Wives tried to do me in. Yeah, he's clearly nuts, right? You can tell in this film, like, somewhere along the line, something happened to Edmund Purdom, obviously, but he's such a jolly kind of nutter.
I can forgive him for anything for a couple of performances. One is obviously his performance in Pieces, which is that's a great film. If you haven't seen Things, you need to see Things. Not Things, but actually, no, yes, go see Things, but also while you're there, pick up Pieces as well.
But the thing with Pieces is, I reckon there's quite a bit of Pieces DNA in this, right? When we get to
I feel like there is too.
When we get to the flashbacks about why this happened, which I still don't actually quite fully understand, it's very Pieces, isn't it? The flashback.
And even when he comes into like his study at one point, he goes to sit down. I was almost confused. I was like, is this an outtake from his study when he was the whatever, he's the professor or whatever.
Yes.
The dean. Yeah, the dean. Yeah, it was a very similar looking setup and room.
None of the actors in that flashback scene are credited in the end up in the end credits as well. So
No, I don't know who shot that. Is that a Birkinshaw thing or
none of the actors are credited who were in that.
no? Yeah, the only thing Don't Open Till Christmas is missing, I suppose, is Bruce Laird doesn't turn up
Yes.
and collapse because he had some bad Chinese food.
Yeah.
And no one backs into a elevator with a chainsaw behind their back.
Yes. Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
nice father.
Right.
That's with my daughter, yeah. But interesting book, yeah.
She's on the Vinegar Syndrome disc as well, right? She talks
I
about
believe so. I've not seen the Vinegar Syndrome thing.
yeah, she talks about her dad a little bit. Yeah, I clearly a character. Yeah, I wouldn't mind reading that. It is quite interesting, is it?
Yeah. The only problem with it is that it's originally a French book, and whoever translated it into English, it's a bit of a hack job. It's like they've run it through Google Translate or something. But,
So his voice is so ubiquitous too because he dubbed so many Italian films, right? So like I'm always like my ears always pricked up when I'm watching whatever is whether it's Peplums. I mean, he just did years and years and years about 20, 30 years worth of voice acting and he's never credited, but you always know it's him because he's got such a distinctive
voice.
voice.
Some of the voices in the Gestapo's Last Orgy.
I wouldn't be surprised.
The unseen judge at the beginning of the film. I think that sounds a lot like him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is though, it is because I'm pretty sure there's at least someone else who was hired because they sound like Edmund Purdom as well, though, right? So sometimes you're not sure if it is Edmund Purdom or if it's
right.
Yeah, Edmund Le. But yeah, so and also didn't he? There's at least one Mondo film that he narrated as well. Like forget which one.
I've seen one called Mondo Set.
Mondo
Set, yeah, early Sergio Martino film, yeah.
Oh, okay, I don't know that one. But is it him who does Echo? Is that Edmund Purdom?
Yeah, I think he did a few of those, yeah.
Yeah. No, a fascinating man. And obviously, yeah.
What's the Mario Bava like Viking film he's in?
Oh yeah, he is in one of those, isn't he? I forget which one. There's a couple of those.
Because it's a brilliant, yeah. I mean, it might be one of the. He made a few with Cameron Mitchell, I know, kind of doing Kirk Douglas basically, like with his bleached blonde hair and stuff.
Right.
But anyway, he's in one of them, and he plays like if you've ever seen that Rowan Atkinson bit where he kind of pretends to do Shakespeare, like it's a stage bit.
Yes.
And it has to have been lifted from Purdom's. Like it's almost an exact replication of what Purdom does in that Mario Bava film. Anyway, worth checking out. I mean, pretty much everything Purdom did is interesting.
Right? Yeah, he also just seems to be one of a few people. It doesn't have to be him. There's a few, but he's like one of. It feels like Godard's Contempt is like based on him, right, or someone else, or you know, there's. I mean, I'm sure there's. I'm not to disrespect her book at all, and I haven't read it, but I'm sure someone else could have another crack at someone who isn't blood related,
compromised by family familial ties.
You have to wonder exactly. There's maybe some stories about her dad that she might not want to hear, right? Or yeah. But anyway, back to Don't Open. I mean, yeah. Let's open season. Have at it, lads. What do we? Well, so much we could talk about. I don't know what.
First of all,
you want to bring up?
I mean, I'm gonna start with Giles, brother of Edmund Purdom's character, who he spoilers.
Yes, yes, spoilers unless you've seen the back of the VHS.
Alan Lake, who definitely looks a little bit like I realized he was like, and I know him actually because I was like, I fucking know this guy, and I know him in a Tom Baker context because he
Right.
stars in a Doctor Who serial from the 70s. And like he's a memorable face, he's a memorable
Yes.
actor. But he's got a little bit of David A. Hess. He's kind of like an English David A. Hess-ness about him. But then at one point he puts on this voice where he's talking to her, and he sounds like Tom Hardy's Bane. I was like quite taken aback. And anyway, I really enjoyed his performance. Apparently his last, right?
Yeah. He killed himself, right?
Just before the film was released.
Yeah.
Because he was Diana Dore's
Yes.
last husband, right?
Yes.
And he's one of a litany of people who seem to have taken their own lives who were involved in the making of this. Because
It was a rough shoot, I guess.
Well, Jerry Sundquist, who played Cliff, the boyfriend, also took his own life. And
he stabbed himself with his own flute. No, I just made that up, but possibly. Fuck, I can't. Alan Lake on the set of Doctor Who, that would have been a wide-eyed off, right? Him and Tom Baker. I can imagine sizing each other up.
And their big gappy grins as well.
Yes. Looming over any female on the set, right? Like, hello. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, he's great. He's definitely he's bringing an edge to this performance.
No, he's very good. He's immediately suspicious, right? Like he before he even says anything. It's just he reminds me a little bit as well for some reason. Maybe it's a jacket. He's like Lovejoy's dodgy brother. Like Lovejoy went into
because I could see Purdom. I could see an alternate universe, version of Lovejoy played by.
Yeah, Lovejoy went into the antiques detective game, I guess, and his brother went elsewhere.
The Santa murdering.
Yeah. So who is wearing the seat? So, for instance, the best look we get at him is when he's attacking Pat Astley, right? And he's running the straight razor up and down. Nice scene. And who's behind that plastic mask at that point? Is that Alan Lake?
I wouldn't have thought so. I don't think so. In some of the behind the scenes footage, it doesn't seem to be Lake involved in those scenes or wearing the mask.
So who is that? Who is that behind the mask? Because they have a very distinctive kind. It's difficult to tell because they seem to have a distinctive smile, but I don't know if that's the mask or
the mask, possibly, yeah.
Because they seem to have extremely white teeth as well. Yeah, I was wondering who, because the thing is, but when it gets to the end of the film, right, and the flashback as well. I mean, I'm still not sure, is the flashback supposed to make you think that the little boy might even be the killer? Or was he just witness to a murder?
Wasn't that the younger version of Alan Lake's character?
I assumed it was just, the young Alan Lake.
No, I understand that, but what I mean is you see him at the top of the stairs and he's got there's never an actual scene of him. He seems to be just a witness to.
Yeah, sort of falsely blamed for their mother's murder.
Yeah. But I'm still not quite sure. And then, so I'll get spoilers. There's an added, as if this film it's weird, the twist at the end of this film, the not very explosively explosion. I mean, that looks like, you wouldn't want that going off in your living room, but it's all right. I mean, it's just like a very
strong. They talk about it in the making of. They're like, well, we didn't, there was a lot of expensive books back there.
Yes.
We did have to be concerned. So
it's just like a really strong Christmas cracker, really. But it doesn't look particularly lethal. But it's just such an weird added, like, it's like, oh okay. I didn't really need that at all at the end of the film. I mean, I'm kind of glad it's there, and it harkens back to Chekhov's Christmas present, right at the beginning. If you use it, then it has to explode at a certain point. But it just I mean, who knows the torturous who knows what the original story was and how it ended up the way it is, but God bless everyone involved, because it's you should watch this every Christmas. I think Gav does actually watch it every Christmas, but
No, surely not.
well, you should. We all should. It make life better.
I might be part of my family traditions going forward. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, a few things we didn't mention. There's one derelict Santa who has his face pressed down on his own grill full of hot chestnuts.
The chestnut scene, yeah. How could we forget? That's awesome. I also wonder about that, if the Santa catching fire was an accident and they were thought, okay, looks cool, let's keep it, or
I would wonder, because those cheap fucking like felt suits that you could buy at the dollar store here, yeah, I'm sure those things go up like a Roman candle.
I was just wondering if it was someone was just a second away from saying cut, and then all of a sudden, and they were like, keep filming, keep filming. Because I'm pretty sure, yeah, human bodies don't burn like that, right? Just another fantastic. There's so many great scenes in this film. It's I mean, yeah, the dick we didn't mention, the dick getting cut off in the.
Yeah, and that guy is a very jolly German man, it seems, when we see him interviewed in the in the making of, right? Which I wasn't.
Well, what I love,
dubbed?
What I really love about that scene, again, Randall logic, cinema logic. So you get the establishing shot where and the urinals are like here, and the stalls are like over there, right? So it only makes sense is if it's Mr. Fantastic holding that straight razor, because you see it come out from the door, and then it clearly goes all the way across the other side. Cuts the dick off and goes back, because you don't see anyone in frame at all, right? Brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, there was a few things that begged question, and I read about this in a review, but I didn't catch it with my own eye. But so there is a scene where somebody suddenly has like a James Bond, like Austin Powers boot knife that like pops out of the end of his shoe, right?
Yes, yeah, there is, yeah.
But then what I read in a review was that they immediately smash cut to like him stabbing him with an actual knife, and that it's not a kick, but it looked to me, my mind read it as like he kicked him with the.
Yes, same here, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's a bullshit. That was somebody else's.
Because I wrote it down, because you don't see, you don't often, because that's the those are the two circus Santas, right? There's a black guy and a white guy, right? And
yeah.
Right. And they're the cops. Are they the cops that are like the undercover cops who are?
No. That's because I thought, because I'd seen this film before and I knew the dick cutting scene was coming up, and I thought, oh, must be the dick cutting scene, because we're first introduced to those two Santas just hanging out in front of some gents, right? They're just like, hey, we're hanging. I thought, oh, you don't have a gents in a film unless there's a scene in it, but Dick Randall does, because the gents scene is later, right? It's a totally different scene. But for some reason they thought, oh, let's film this scene in front of some gents. It's very odd. Yeah, I mean, what are we missing? I mean, yeah.
Okay. There is a Santa who comes out of a pub drunk, gets on a bicycle and wobbly bikes away. At which point, some very early '80s punk rockers.
Oh, thank you. I forgot about the punks from Central Casting.
The yobs.
They're so good, because what I like about them, they're that mixture of menacing but also like not at all scary, because they say things like, all right, Santa, get on your bike, or something like that. After him. And this, what are you doing? Well, who are these punks? Have they just come out of, they've just been to see The Damned or something, and now they're chasing a Santa on a bike, like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. This film is so good. The more I talk about it, I want to watch it now immediately. So why was Kelly Baker not in more films? Because she's cute as fuck in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And also she's not just cute. She's there's something about her. She actually does have quite a good screen presence. Like, I love the scene where the old man who goes to see her in the booth. I love this. It's like, oh, would you like to, you know, rub your hands over my, yes, yes, I would. He's so, he's the, I don't think I've ever seen an adorably pervy old man. She even says like, oh, he was so nice. And he's really pervy, but quite nice as well about it. Like, yes, yes, I would. Yes, I would like that very much. And the thing is, you're there with him as well. You're thinking, yeah. So yeah, no, that scene's really. I mean, that's a genuinely like a good like I would say it's a good scene, like in and of
It is,
itself.
although it's clearly not the scene that Edmund Purdom is directing in the documentary about this film,
No,
which is fascinating.
yeah.
Took him a few times to get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, well, there. I mean, jump in at any. I think this is a bit of a free for all at this point. Jump in at any point if you do think of anything else from the film we haven't discussed. But let's segue into the making of a horror film then. So this is also the Vinegar Syndrome put it on. Like you said, Gav, it used to be on the Mondo Macabro DVD, and it has been ported over to the Vinegar Syndrome disc. So first question I have about this is, I'm assuming it's a bit of promotional tact, basically, that was made for this. But where would it have been seen, if at all? Was it ever shown anywhere? Like, it seems like it might have been.
Yeah, I've no idea. It doesn't really. It's not your typical sort of,
No.
promo sort of hyping the product. It's always making fun of it. So, I mean, if it weren't for the existence of Don't Open for Christmas, you'd think it was like a spoof documentary about making a horror film where everything is wrong.
Yeah, it is a bit Spinal Tap, except
Yeah.
deliberately, like, it's kind of naff as well, right? But it's like, it ends with Dick Randall asleep in the screening room, and they're can't win them all. Wow, wow, wow. It's kind of a bit naff, but it's so much fun. Like you said, the scene of him, Edmund Purdom directing that scene. It says, pump, hands. But he seems so and like, they're out to Portobello Road, and he doesn't look like a man with the weight of directing a film on his shoulders. Right? He's like wandering around.
Clearly out of his depth, I think.
Yeah,
slightly out of his depth.
Yeah, doesn't his daughter say in that book something along the lines of he never directed again because it was such a stressful experience, it turned his hair white or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's so I don't know who the guy is in it who's interviewing Dick Randall in the Roxy screening room, but it's quite funny. Their shtick is kind of amusing. In a weird way. Like, it starts with the kissogram Santas, right?
Right.
Future Mrs. Bendover, Lindsay Drew, doing the topless and clothed version, right? And Dick Randall just seems to be making fun of his own product from the get-go, right? Like,
I guess that's sort of what the sort of kind of person he was, though. He doesn't seem to be someone who ever took himself particularly seriously at all.
Well, what I can't quite figure, it's a weird mix. So him and Steve Manasian are interviewed, the money men, right? Like, and they come on screen and they're like swaggering down the street, and you think, is this them taking the piss out of themselves, or are we supposed to be impressed? I'm not quite sure. It rides that line, right in the middle.
I did notice that Stephen at one point tells us very confidently that Last House on the Left 2 will be out within the calendar year.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still waiting.
And apparently he's something to do with the Mark of the Devil vomit bags as well, right? Those. Yes. Another film with competing directors and strange stories of its making, actually, Mark of the Devil. But no, making of a horror film, it must be one of the least illuminating making ofs as well I think I've ever seen. Like, I still don't know how they made this.
Yes. I don't know who directed it other than Purdom, because they don't really get into it. Any specifics about who else was behind the camera, or yeah?
No, I don't know. From what I can tell, the Paula Meadows scene was shot by Derek Ford, and she's interviewed in this one, so I don't know whether Ford was directing this or it just like Don't Open for Christmas itself. It just seems to be whoever was available was directing it at that point in time.
Valerie Ford has some good bits in this as well, where she's sent into the sex shop to buy a dildo, and I don't mean to be I don't mean to be what's the word I'm looking for, like I hope I don't come across as like lacking self-confidence, but there's a scene where and she's looking at the dildos and she goes, no, I want a normal sized one.
Yes.
Except this huge fucking schlong. And yes.
That'll do.
And I'm thinking, oh, I feel somewhat inadequate. That looks quite big to me. It's not just me, then.
No.
Okay.
Also, did you
obviously
see
Derek was handling a horse?
Did you see the guy who worked in the shop? You see him just for a second, but he's kind of like a Eugene Levy character or something like that.
Right.
And I was fascinated by him, and I was thinking, if this is a real shop, and he was like, "Oh yeah, fine, come in and film me for this," thing that's going to be seen by who knows who.
And after the sex shop, it's the butcher's where we're going to buy some gore. That's quite fun as well. Yeah, that whole thing's lovely. Who else? Oh, there's also you mentioned the Video Nasties thing, Dick Randall does. I assume it's a Dick Randall attempt at satire, right? Where they show a clip of a Margaret Thatcher lookalike, and then he claims, "Yes, we got her from the ugly agency," and then makes a crack about Video Nasties. So yeah, I think
I wondered if it just don't quote me on this, but I wonder if that woman the Thatcher impersonator, I wonder if she dubbed one of the voices in Space Bodies 2000. If you hear the voice of Ultraman's mother in that film, it sounds like it's the voice of someone who makes a living as a Margaret Thatcher impersonator. Yeah.
I have to watch. Oh no, I have to watch Space Bodies 2000 again. It's on YouTube, I believe. Someone's put it up there. I don't think we'll ever get a decent quality version of that film. I would be amazed if we get a Vinegar Syndrome Space Warriors 2000. What else? Oh, I tell you what, it's not him, and this is kind of just me being silly, but I just wanted to share it just because it amused me. The scene where they're filming one of the the alternative version of the Santa coming into the peep show booth or whatever. The actor playing Santa, who isn't in the finished film, I was almost convinced it was Johnny Ball. He sounds like Johnny Ball and he looks like Johnny Ball. And I'm pretty sure Johnny Ball wouldn't have been involved in this film. Right?
I think his name's Robin Parkinson. He was in a few things, actually.
Oh, okay. Does he look like Johnny Ball? Because I was convinced it was Johnny Ball.
Yeah, he was in a lot of British comedies before this, and amazingly had a career after being ditched from Don't Open for Christmas.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So that he amused. Just so
and also there's Carolyn Monroe, who we didn't even mention, who is in the film and then appears in the documentary making of as well, where she goes on to say that she doesn't actually like horror films at all, but she's certainly done a few of them.
Well, she likes the old Hammer style.
Oh yes, she likes the classic stuff. Yes, not the gore.
Caroline Monroe's always Caroline Monroe. She's just like she just seems like a very nice person, doesn't she? Like anytime you see her interviewed with anything, she's extremely positive, right? Like even if you can imagine she'd be interviewed for a fucking snuff film, she'd probably be quite nice about it, right? Yeah, they're very, very nice. When they killed the tramp and beat him to death, but they were nice about it, like she's just gets on with everyone as Caroline Monroe. But yeah, her scene as well, we forgot to mention that in the film. I mean, that's non sequitur central, right? I mean, I can't remember what songs she sings.
Oh, that's the Santa that gets the meat cleaver in the face, right?
Yeah.
Was it?
And then he
Yeah.
comes up to the floor.
Yes. Yes.
Dick Randall had some sort of involvement in the UK music industry, I believe. He owned the copyrights to a number of songs, so I'd imagine that was probably one of his songs he owned. Warrior of Love. That's
Right. And of course, speaking of songs, making of a horror film, of course, opens with the theme from Urge to Kill.
an earlier version of it, yeah.
Yeah, like years before. I mean, again, we talked about this when we talked Urge to Kill, but I think we were all kind of agreed that Urge to Kill was probably made several years before its, well, non-release date, right? But
yeah,
but I wonder how early it was made, because yeah, I don't know. Or if the music was, again, we don't know where this was ever shown, if at all, or where it was. I mean, it looks like something I suppose might have been destined for television, I'm guessing, from the length. Like if you added a couple of advert breaks.
right. But then you wouldn't
hour
really
long.
have that sheep's eyeball sliding out of his glassed face if it was going to be shown on telly, surely.
Channel 4, maybe.
Late at night, yeah.
It
I
feels
suppose.
like something Dick Randall put together for his own amusement, really, and maybe a few close friends. Like it's almost like a gag reel.
Well, it does. I mean, for some reason, it reminded me a bit of like like I mean, it's like this one doesn't have the kind of the jokey tone, but like that Roy Frumka's thing about the making of Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, Document of the Dead.
Document of the Dead, yeah.
Yeah.
There was, it's just that little kind of, because another thing that struck me was like when you see all of the work that the special effects people are doing, and like, they've obviously taken quite a while to do Perm's side of his face. And then you actually in the movie, you see it like from a distance for like a split second. You're like, well, that was somebody's half a day spent.
I
like,
didn't even notice he had a scarred face.
Had prosthetic. Yeah, no. And as somebody who has done
tissues being used. There's a lot of
that is pretty standard thing with liquid latex to
right.
We use a lot of tissues in meat market as well, but and not just because everyone's masturbating constantly,
right? Although that was the budget. Yes.
But oh shit, no, there was something else that it's gone. Anyway, it may come back, but there was something connected to that whole special effectsy side of things.
No, I mean, Don't Open Till Christmas, making of a horror film. It's the perfect festive double bill, I think, isn't it?
Ah, yes.
It should be on. Put it on Christmas Day, right after lunch. It's just, it's I can't put into words how much I love Don't Open Till Christmas, even though it's a fucking mess of a film. I mean, it's up there. It's upper echelon, kind of
mad.
Just fun. Like there's few films this fun, right?
No, I would agree. And thanks for bringing it to my attention, the both of you, because I have been blissfully unaware of Don't Open Till Christmas. In fact, I have to say this is a bit of a black hole in my knowledge of horror films generally. I haven't watched, I think, many or any of the other Christmas themed horror films. I've never seen Silent Night, Deadly Night, or like any of the Killer Santa films, which I understand usually feature a Santa who's killing people, as opposed to a plethora of Santas meeting grisly ends. On
final word from me, and then we'll hand it over to you if you have anything to say, the both of you. But this also sent me another film on my wish list. So because of course I've, like most people, never really heard of Stephen Managian really before. I'd seen the name on some Dick Randall things, but seeing him as one of the money men, and he's talking about I just looked him up on the IMDb, and he has one of his films he has a credit as a producer on is this Romanian disaster film from 1973, which was retitled The Poseidon Explosion. And I thought, okay, I must see this. This sounds, because it looks like it might actually be quite a good disaster film as well. But yeah, the Poseidon explosion. I mean,
Is that the one that's also known as oil?
Say again.
Is that the one that's also known as oil or something? Yeah.
No. Actually, interesting you should say. I think oil is it's kind of a follow-up because it's the same director. But yeah, that's his follow-up to the Poseidon explosion was oil, or it's called something else. It has a longer title, right? Like the oil.
Yeah, oil, the $1 billion explosion or something.
Yeah,
Like
it's the same director.
Dick Randall on it.
But I don't think Stuart Whitman is in the Poseidon explosion because I think he's in oil, isn't he? I think. Yeah, but apparently they are a set. I don't know if they're actually official sequel and prequel or just similar films by the same filmmaker. But yeah, so there we go. Poseidon explosion. Hey, we might do it on the show if we can find a copy of Poseidon explosion. I couldn't find Poseidon explosion.
I'll take a look after we talk here. I'll go to the usual places.
I feel sorry for you, Nick, because whenever we end up doing these things, you always. I imagine your life outside of this is just you looking up things and if they're available,
whether they can be found.
Yeah.
No, I have a few other things going on, Clive, but that is most of it. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Good. Back to work. Crack the whip. Yeah.
No, as I said, I honestly, genuinely thanks, Gav. Really, this was an absolute fucking pleasure. I completely enjoyed this, and I said because of this kind of like it's a word Clive likes, or a phrase, connective tissue. Like for me, immediately the Pieces thing, and Pieces is one of my favorite films. So right away I was like, oh yes, this feels of a piece with Pieces. Maybe yes. a bit grubbier, a bit more tatty, but definitely it felt comfortable.
It's the dark London streets shadow of the Spanish sunshine of Pieces, if that makes any sense. Yeah. But they would make what a double. Imagine, I wonder if that ever happened. You go into a cinema on 42nd Street or something and watching Pieces followed by Don't Open Till Christmas. You'd lose your mind, wouldn't you?
I've seen Pieces on the big screen, actually. I saw that at one of the Cinemuerte film festivals in Vancouver. Okay. And and it was a good print, and it was completely uncut. So it was.
I mean, that film's a riot by yourself, so I can't imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Every time fucking what's his name, Paul Smith.
Yeah,
Paul Smith showed up on screen, the entire audience is just killing themselves.
The finest live action Bluto money can buy.
Yes, no question.
Right. Anything to add, lads, or shall we leave it there? That seems like a tacit agreement. Okay. Yes. So until next time, have a very Merry Christmas indeed.
Ho, ho, ho.
Yes.